The little girl's voice cut through the winter air like a soft chime between snowflakes. "You need a home, and I need a mommy," she said to the young woman huddled at the bus stop. Nathan Caldwell froze, his phone still against his ear, as he turned to see his 4-year-old daughter, Mia, standing before a bench. Her mittened hands rested lightly on the knees of a woman wrapped in a worn, threadbare coat. The woman sat still, her pale blue eyes heavy with fatigue, blinking slowly as if waking from a dream. She seemed more like a wisp than a person, curled tightly around a faded tote bag she clutched like a shield. Snow dusted her tangled golden hair, and her breath came in faint, uneven puffs. With gentle precision, Mia placed a bear-shaped cookie in the woman's lap. "You can come live with us," she said, her words carrying the unshakable certainty of a child's heart. "Mia!" Nathan hurried over, ending his call and pulling his daughter back with a protective tug. He knelt beside her, eyeing the woman cautiously. "Miss, what's going on with my daughter?" The woman raised her hands, palms out, empty. "Nothing," she said, her voice rough but calm. "She just walked over." "I didn't touch her." Nathan's gaze sharpened. The woman's cheeks were too red, her lips faintly blue from the cold. A subtle tremor shook her frame as she gripped her bag tighter. "I didn't ask for anything," she added, eyes dropping. "But your daughter, she's kind." Nathan's chest tightened. Mia, unfazed, looked up at him. "She gave her cookie to a cat first," she said plainly, pointing to a torn bread roll in the snow where a scrawny cat now nibbled at crumbs. The other half was clearly eaten. Nathan glanced back at the woman. She hadn't spoken first, hadn't begged, yet her quiet presence felt louder than the city around them. "We should go," he said under his breath, taking Mia's hand. As they turned, he heard a rustle. The woman was trying to stand, moving carefully as if afraid to cause a scene, but her legs gave way. She stumbled, crashing against the icy bus stop pole before collapsing to the ground. Nathan spun around as Mia gasped, "Dad!" He rushed to the woman's side. "Miss, can you hear me?" No answer. Kneeling, he pressed 2 fingers to her neck. Her pulse was faint, but there. Her forehead burned despite her chilled skin, a raw scrape on her hand glaring red. Her breaths were shallow, lips cracked. She was sick, dangerously so. No cars passed, no one was near, and time was slipping. Without a second thought, Nathan lifted her. She was startlingly light, her coat parting to reveal torn sleeves and bruised arms. A faint whimper escaped her as she leaned against him. "Mia, let's go," he said urgently. "Is she going to die?" Mia's eyes were wide. "Not if we get her warm," he replied. They hurried through the snow, Nathan's house just 3 blocks away, each step heavier with the weight of the stranger in his arms. He didn't know her name or her story, but the moment she fell, something shifted inside him. He could have left her there, perhaps should have, but he didn't. As they reached the porch, Mia whispered, "She's our home now, isn't she?" Nathan didn't respond, just pushed open the door. The fireplace cast a warm glow, crackling softly. Sophie stirred under a heavy wool blanket, her lashes fluttering as she woke. The room smelled of cedar and cinnamon, and as her eyes adjusted, she saw polished wood floors, a tall bookshelf stuffed with architectural tomes, and heard the faint clatter of cooking from a nearby kitchen. She lay on a long sofa, a pillow under her head, her coat folded neatly at her feet. She couldn't recall how she got here, just the cold, the bus stop, and the little girl. Then came the sound of crayons scratching. Mia sat cross-legged on a rug, tongue peeking out as she colored with fierce focus. Her paper bloomed with 3 stick figures holding hands, one tall, one small, and one with a halo of yellow hair. Above them, in wobbly letters, she'd written, "My home." Sophie's breath caught. She tried to sit up, but pain throbbed in her head, her body weak. Mia noticed, leaping up with a grin, "You're awake." She said, holding up her drawing, "That's us." Sophie's voice was barely a rasp. "It's beautiful." Mia nodded gravely. "Daddy says you can stay till you're better, but I think forever." Before Sophie could reply, Nathan appeared, his face unreadable. He set down a glass of water and a bowl of soup on the coffee table. "You fainted in the snow," he said evenly. "I couldn't leave you there. You needed help. But when you're well, you'll go." His words were firm, not unkind, but they stung. "Thank you," Sophie murmured, eyes lowering. Mia hovered, eager to talk, but Nathan gently guided her away. Let her rest. At dinner, Sophie sat apart at the breakfast bar, eating slowly, careful not to take more than offered. When Nathan wasn't watching, she smiled at Mia's stories of school, her princess costume, and her dream of a snow bakery. But when his gaze met hers, she looked down. Later, as she helped clear dishes, her sweater sleeve slipped, revealing a jagged scar across her wrist, faded but stark. Nathan saw it, said nothing, but the image lingered. That night, after the house quieted, he heard a faint groan from the living room. Sophie was curled on the sofa, face pale and sweaty, a pained whimper escaping her. He hesitated, then called a private doctor. The physician arrived within the hour. "Severe dehydration, fever of 102, the doctor said quietly. "She needs fluids and rest." He paused, glancing at Nathan. "Does she have insurance? Family to contact?" Sophie stirred, her voice faint. No one needs to know if I'm alive." Her words hung heavy, like frost on a window. The doctor left instructions and vanished into the night. Nathan stood watching her sleep, recognizing the pain in her face. He'd seen it in himself years ago, after his wife's death left him with a newborn and a deafening silence. Before returning upstairs, he stepped into the kitchen. Morning light woke Sophie, her fever slightly eased. A steaming mug of ginger honey tea sat beside her, a folded napkin beneath it. She opened it to find neat handwriting, "You're not invisible." Her lips quivered. For the first time in years, she felt seen. By the next morning, the house smelled of thyme and ginger. Sophie moved quietly in the kitchen, her hair loosely tied, sleeves rolled up. "Let me help," she'd insisted softly. "I feel better when I'm useful." Nathan hadn't protested. Now she stirred a pot of soup made from leftover vegetables, the kitchen warmer with her presence. Mia sat at the table, humming as she colored. Nathan entered, laptop under his arm. "That smells familiar," he said. Sophie glanced back, a faint smile on her lips. "Just something simple. A couple in Queens taught me to make comfort from scraps." He tasted it, and the flavor rosemary, pepper, a subtle sweetness stopped him cold. It was his wife's recipe, note for note. Sophie stood calmly, unaware of the memory she'd stirred. But something in him tightened, not suspicion, but a reflex born of years protecting Mia, years of logic over emotion. That night, after Mia slept, he searched online. The second result hit like a stone, a young fashion student accused of stealing designs at a New York showcase. A photo showed Sophie, younger, vibrant, but the accusation had tarnished her name, though she was never convicted. Nathan leaned back, the screen's glow casting shadows across his face. He wanted to trust the woman he was beginning to know, but doubt slipped in like a draft. The next day, he found her in the hallway. "Something on your mind?" she asked, sensing his unease. He hesitated, then showed her the article. She looked at it, unsurprised. "That's me," she said quietly. "Did you do it?" "No," she said, her voice gentle but firm. She crossed her arms. "People believed I did. Sponsors left, my landlord hiked the rent, friends disappeared, and the man I trusted drained my account." Nathan stayed silent. She gave a dry laugh. "I knew you'd look me up. You don't like loose ends." He flinched. She was right. "I didn't steal," she continued. "It was my design, but people wanted a villain, not the truth." She met his eyes. "Do you believe me?" He opened his mouth, hesitated, and closed it. That was enough. "Thank you," she said softly, "for being honest." She turned to the guest room, gathering her things. When Mia saw her at the door, her eyes widened. "You're leaving?" Sophie knelt. "I have to, sweetheart." Mia pressed her stuffed bear into Sophie's hands. "Take Teddy so you're not alone." Sophie's eyes brimmed as she hugged the bear, then Mia, holding her tightly. Nathan stood by the stairs, motionless, watching his daughter cling to a woman she'd known only days but loved like family. It broke something in him. Sophie kissed Mia's forehead, opened the door, and slipped into the evening without a goodbye. That night, Nathan couldn't work or sleep. Mia whispered. She didn't say goodbye. "I know," he murmured, kneeling by her bed. "She was our family," Mia said. Nathan's throat caught. "She was special." Mia pointed to her drawing on the wall, 3 figures embracing, with "Please stay" scrawled in crayon. Nathan turned away, tears escaping. He didn't know what hurt more, his broken trust or his silence. Later, he found Mia missing from her bed. The living room door was ajar. Stepping onto the porch, he saw her tiny figure limping through the snow, her slippers crunching. "Mia!" he called, heart racing. She didn't stop, following a faint glow down the block. There, under a street lamp, sat Sophie, her coat pulled tight, humming softly. Then Mia stumbled, crying out as she fell, blood seeping from her palm into the snow. Nathan ran, but Sophie was faster. She knelt beside Mia, wrapping a handkerchief around the wound. "Hold still, sweetheart," she murmured, soothing Mia's tears with warm hands, her hair glowing under the street lamp. Nathan reached them, crouching. "Mia, you scared me," he said, voice shaking. Mia sniffled. "I wanted to find her." Nathan met Sophie's eyes. The city faded, leaving only Mia's trembling hand in Sophie's gentle grip. His years of guarded distance cracked. He hadn't loved like this, not so fiercely, so fast. "Thank you," he whispered. Sophie tied the handkerchief, her touch tender, the kind of care Mia hadn't known since her mother. Nathan's heart ached, not from loss, but from fear of losing what he hadn't known he could have. Snow fell like silent confetti. "We need you," he said, voice thick. Mia gripped Sophie's coat. "Don't leave again, Mommy." Sophie's breath caught, her eyes wide. Mia's plea echoed. "Please don't." Nathan swallowed, hope and pain tangling. In that moment, Everything shifted not through logic, but through the sacred act of two people holding a child. Nathan pulled them inside, closing the door on the snow. Mia leaned against Sophie's sleeve, and Sophie held her close. Nathan stood behind them, warm despite the cold outside. Letting her go again felt unthinkable. For the first time, he believed some doors should stay open. One evening, Nathan spoke casually, avoiding her gaze. "You're good with her. Would you stay a few afternoons a week? Teach her to draw?" Sophie blinked, surprised. "Are you sure?" He nodded. "She lights up with you." So Sophie returned not as a guest, not quite family, but something warm and in between. She became a soft voice during story time, hands smudged with charcoal and flour. One Saturday, they baked in the kitchen. Mia, drowning in an oversized apron, had flour on her nose. "More sugar, Mommy," she said without thinking. Sophie froze, but Nathan only glanced up, silent. Sophie smiled faintly and kept stirring. After the cookies baked, Mia drew 3 hands large, slender, and tiny overlapping in a sun, labeled, "This is love." Nathan's heart cracked open a little more. Later, with Mia asleep, the fireplace glowed dimly. Sophie sat curled on the sofa, holding a mug Nathan had given her. "You've made this house lighter," he said softly, sitting across from her. She looked away, smiling. "It's your home." "I'm just passing through." "No," he said, voice low, intimate. "It's more." Their eyes met in the dim light, and for a moment, the world held its breath. He leaned forward, but just before their lips met, Sophie pulled back. "I can't," she whispered. "I can't be her." Nathan stiffened. "I'm not asking you to," he said. "You're not," she replied, stepping back. "But it feels like I'm measured against a ghost." He stood, the space between them taut. "You won't let yourself be seen," he said. "I don't want someone else. I want you, your scars, your silence, your strength. I don't need perfect. I need real." Her voice trembled. "I've been left before. I believed once, and it cost me everything." He kept his hand still. "You think I don't know loss? You remind me there's more." She didn't answer, her eyes glistening with sorrow, not anger. Then she turned and left. Nathan stood in the silence, fists clenched, the moment unfinished. He hadn't meant to love her, but he did. She hadn't meant to run, but she did. Love, when it's burned you, feels like fire, not warmth. That night, Mia clutched the bear Sophie had mended. "Is she coming back?" she asked sleepily. Nathan lingered in the doorway. "I don't know," he whispered. "I hope so." In that quiet moment, a father and daughter held on to hope, even as the woman they needed walked into the night. Sometimes the bravest thing isn't falling in love, it's staying when it feels too real. The house was too still the next morning. No laughter, no lullabies, no scent of tea or cookies, just silence. Nathan stirred his coffee, tie loose, eyes on the floor. Mia sat at the table, crayons untouched, staring at Sophie's empty chair. It had been 3 days. He hadn't told Mia everything, unsure if Sophie was gone for good. That afternoon, tidying the guest room, he found an envelope on the pillow, marked only with Mia in soft cursive. His hands shook as he opened it. Inside, blue ink smudged with tears read, "Sweetheart, you're the first in years to call me Mommy. I didn't know I needed that until you. But I need to learn I deserve it." My heart has pieces I'm still mending, parts that forgot safety. I want to be someone you admire, not just for cookies or drawings, but for staying, for choosing love over fear. I'm leaving because I love you, not because I don't. Tell your daddy he gave me space to be real. I hope one day I'm brave enough to walk back, not as a passerby, but as someone who belongs. Love always, Sophie. Nathan gripped the paper until it crumpled. She hadn't run to escape, she'd left to learn how to return. The ache was sharp. That evening, Mia climbed beside him, clutching her bear. Did Mommy leave because I wasn't good? His heart broke. No, sweetheart, he said, holding her close. She left to remember her strength. Mia buried her face in his shirt. Will she come back? He rested his chin on her head. I think she wants to. Sometimes love needs time. Mia nodded, her fingers curling around his. Then we'll wait, she whispered. That night, Nathan sat alone, rereading the letter. For the first time in years, he cried, not just from loss, but from hope. This wasn't goodbye. It felt like a promise. The gallery glowed with golden light, fairy lights woven into white drapes. Jazz hummed as guests mingled among vibrant textile art, flowing dresses and framed sketches pulsing with life. At the center stood a dress, simple yet profound, its hem stitched with tiny hands holding each other. Sophie stood by the stage, her blonde hair in a loose braid, eyes scanning the crowd. She'd rebuilt her name, her courage, and now presented her first collection at a charity gala for women in need. Yet, despite the applause, something was missing. The host's voice broke through. Now, a special reading by a special little girl. Mia Caldwell stepped onto the stage in a pink dress with embroidered daisies, clutching a crumpled paper. Her voice, small but clear, carried, "My name is Mia. I had just a daddy. He's smart, makes great waffles, but he was sad sometimes." She looked at Sophie. Then we met someone with cold hands but a warm heart. She didn't laugh when I called her Mommy. The room hushed. She didn't stay long, but she left songs, hugs, and soup that tastes like love. Sophie's hand covered her mouth, tears falling. Mia unfolded her paper, voice wavering. Home isn't walls or pillows. It's when she sang to me and kissed my head. It's where Daddy smiles and holds her hand. Home is where my Mommy is, maybe tonight. The applause was soft, sacred. Sophie stepped forward, trembling, and saw Nathan emerge, holding a framed silk scarf, the one she'd wrapped around Mia that snowy night. "I framed the day I met you," he said, eyes shining. "That's when home came back." She stared at the scarf, then at him. "I thought I left too much brokenness to deserve a future," she whispered. "And I thought keeping people out protected us," he replied. "But letting you in gave us more," her lip quivered. "I kept something too," she said, pulling out a creased note from her coat. "You're not invisible." She held it out. "You saw me, not the headlines, just me." He stepped closer. "I want to see all of you, without fear." Sophie glanced at Mia, hope bright on her face. "Then I'd like to come home," Sophie whispered. Mia leapt into her arms, laughter ringing. The crowd applauded, not for fashion, but for family chosen. Morning light spilled into the kitchen, gilding the wooden floor. Mia stood on a step stool, cutting heart shapes into dough, flour dusting her cheeks. Sophie stood beside her, sleeves rolled up, smiling. "Don't forget the hearts," Mia said seriously. "They mean love." How could I forget? Sophie replied. Nathan leaned in the doorway, watching the two, one his by birth, one his by heart. Their ease felt sacred, a puzzle finally whole. He walked over, kissed Mia's head, then Sophie's. This is the first morning I didn't wake up missing something, he murmured. Sophie met his eyes, unguarded. On the counter lay a card in delicate script. Let's learn to stay, Sophie. His throat tightened. The house, once silent, now hummed with laughter and clinking spoons. Later, Nathan led them to a door they'd never opened. I saved this space, he said to Sophie, not knowing why until now. Inside was a sunlit studio drafting table, fabric spools, a mood board with blank sketches. A plaque read, Sophie's tomorrow, a place to begin again. Sophie's breath caught, her fingers tracing the table. I never thought anyone would build a room for me, she whispered, eyes glassy. You built something in us first, Nathan said. This is just returning the foundation. From the kitchen, Mia shouted, Let's make pancakes, Mommy and Daddy. Nathan laughed, the sound of a heart at rest. That's our cue, he said, offering his hand. Sophie took it. They returned to a table set with mismatched plates, cookies piled high, and orange juice on a tea towel. Mia poured syrup into a smiley face mold. This one's for Mommy, she said. Sophie pulled out a faded handkerchief, newly embroidered beneath its floral stitches. Family is not built by blood, but by hands that hold when you're lost. She set it on the table. Nathan touched the word lost, his voice soft. You held us when we didn't know we needed it. Sophie looked at him and Mia, this man who'd learned to love again, this child who'd chosen love from the start. She smiled with certainty. They hadn't found perfection, but they'd found home, a miracle born not from walls, but from hands that held on. A girl's innocent words, a man's quiet grief, and a woman who thought she had nothing left, wove a family no storm could break. Not perfect, but real. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that love hides in unexpected moments, we invite you to linger. Subscribe to my channel for more tales that stir your spirit, mend your soul, and remind you that even on the darkest days, tomorrow holds a gift. Thank you for watching.